Welcome, everyone. My name is Amr Heather. I'm the current president for Open Silicon Valley, and I thank all of you for joining. Today, I have immense pleasure in uh, welcoming Umair and Zareen. We all know Zareen from her name and her restaurant. So thank you. We're very excited to talk about your book. And Ambreen, thank you for being our host. And Tariq Khan, thank you for making this happen as president of Open Global. Please, Tariq, take it away.
Thank you, Amir, and thanks for your leadership and continuous journey of introducing so many entrepreneurs and leaders. My name is Tariq Khan. I'm president of Open Global. Just a minute about Open. Open is an organization that was started more than 20 years ago to connect people, professionals, entrepreneurs on a favorable basis. We have 15 plus chapters starting from Toronto and 10 chapters in the US. We have a chapter in England, and we have 3 chapters in Pakistan and our presence in Middle East. The purpose of this organization is really to connect Pakistanis or people who are interested in Pakistan. It is not only for Pakistanis, anyone is welcome to join, but share stories. And we are very blessed to have so many entrepreneurial success stories. And especially today, we are talking about Zareen and Umair Khan, who have recently written a book. Being a published author, I know what it takes to write a book. So I give a lot of congratulations to both of them because they both have other activities as well. And we have someone who has seen the journey of these 2 entrepreneurs from the beginning, Amreen Jamal, who's going to share her story and her relationship with them and also talk about this. So once again, I encourage all of you, if you're not a charter member of Open, please connect with us and join. Because we want to grow this ecosystem. But today is all about Zareen and Umair. So Amreen, thank you so much for hosting this, and I give it back to you now.
Thank you so much, Tariq. I'm Amreen Jamal, and my claim to fame is that I'm Zareen Khan's friend, very old friend. And also, I'm the guinea pig for all her recipes when it started way at the beginning. So I'm sure all of you already know Zareen and Umair, and you all have a favorite dish from Zareen's. But for those of you who don't know, let me give you a little bit background about where Zareen is coming from. Zareen was born and raised in Karachi. She's an IBA graduate and a Northeastern alumni. Her corporate career was in product management across various Silicon Valley companies such as Adaptec and RMS. And she left all of that to now what you all know about. She started Zareen's restaurant group. I would also like to add that more than all these qualifications, Zareen is one of my friends who was a feminist 20 years ago before we even used or even in Pakistan heard about the word feminism. And at the same time, she carries our culture and tradition like someone adorns a beautiful outfit. So I'm very proud of her today. I can't tell how proud I am. I was a part of this journey from the very beginning. So I know what it took for her to be where she is today. And then with her has been her partner in her life, a rare Pakistani feminist man, and her partner in everything who has helped her make this beautiful book come to life. And his background, Umair Khan, is he was born and raised in Karachi, just like Zareen. He's an MIT graduate, founder of Folio 3 Software of Mentors Fund. Umair is also a visiting professor at UC Berkeley, teaching entrepreneurship to poets, philosophers, scientists at the College of Arts and Science, Letters and Sciences. He will tell us more about the book project that recently has been released. And I welcome both of you. Please, let's start with hearing what got this person from a corporate world into this restaurant business and made it so successful.
Thank you, Amreen, for the introduction and the kind words. Why I started doing what I did is corporate life was good. I was getting a check, I was busy, but it wasn't really that satisfying or creative for me. So I was always looking for something different to do. So when I quit corporate, I don't think it was the best idea because I was so used to working. And a few options were there for me to become a teacher, to try something in cooking. At that time, Umair had asked me, hey, why don't you think about a restaurant? And that seemed like such an overwhelming task at that time that I decided that I would actually do something with the kids and the family. So I started doing cooking classes. And Ambreen, you were one of the first few students. I don't think I could have started without my close friends. So that's how the journey started, with cooking class, which led to kebab deliveries, which led to caterings, and then finally my first restaurant in Mountain View.
And what do you think was one of the biggest challenges in it? Like, what was the hurdle? How did the Pakistani community receive it? You were a wife of an entrepreneur, well-known entrepreneur in the Bay Area. How did that work?
Well, obviously, my friends and family were very supportive. My sister's first question was, "Why are you quitting all your work and all the stuff, all the itni padhai ki hai, and now you're becoming a kebabchi?" That was her first reaction, but then she supported. Umair and you guys were always supportive, so I've been very grateful to that. There were some people who would question, like, "Oh, is Umair's business doing okay? Is everything okay with you? Oh, the kebab queen is here." And I'm sure you must have heard those comments from others too. But in general, it was very supportive. I don't think I could have done with my friends first, and then the community, and then the larger, wider community.
And what's different about Zareen? I mean, how, because there's so many restaurants, and we know most restaurants end up shutting down within the first year of their birth. What makes this different? And what were you able to do to make this more of a success than what generally a restaurant just opens and they shut down in a year?
I think a lot of restaurants, not all, are run by chefs, either owner chef or chef. This restaurant may be a little bit different because it was a housewife turned chef. So the food is mostly a little more untraditional, in the sense that we don't always have the sikh kebabs and the aloo gobi. You would also see mainly samosas that you won't see other places. You will see buna gosh, more home style. Then you see there is no korma as such. So it's a different menu that attracted people. We were the first few to start halwa puri, offering halwa puri. That was a big magnet for Pakistani community, having halwa puri in the morning. So a few things like that happened. I am obviously a very as a picky eater as well as a picky cook. So I'm very particular about what goes on the menu. I don't know what else really. I think community involvement has also helped the restaurant. Some of the restaurants shut because for I think two reasons. One is that yes, having a husband who is holding the fort, who's responsible for bringing bread to the table, gave me a lot of liberty. So I'm really privileged that way, and other people may not have the same financial situation that I had, where I didn't get paid for the first 4 or 5 years of my life in the food journey, but I was able to move on because I didn't have to worry about bringing bread to the table. So not everyone has those financial freedom, and also not giving up is very important.
What do you think about the fact that your restaurant within the Pakistani community, at least in the very beginning, it gave us all a sense of home and the familiarity and the warmth and the books and the culture? Don't you think that somehow was such a major ingredient in having the community come together initially to support it, once everybody got to, the rest of the community tried the food, and uh, because that is a very important part of Zareen, and you were the one who was able to bring that together.
I think that home style feeling when you get to the restaurant, the warmth, writing your comments on the wall that we started with in Mountain View, helped a lot, like having the community involved, doing fundraisers there. People kind of started feeling like, oh, this is our own, somebody who's our own person who's doing this.
And Umair, how did you feel? Because I do remember Zareen being basically 25 hours a day working in 24 hours. That's what it was like. And there were children at home, and there was your work, and then you were supporting her in her journey throughout this process. How did that work out at a home front?
Yeah, look, I think a couple of things. So first, I think Zareen makes some very good points, but she's sort of, I think, underplaying what it really took to make this a success. So I think, Amreen, your comment about that entire experience is very, very relevant. But Zareen also, now that exactly as you said, the 25 hours a day work, I've never seen any startup, right? And through Mentis Fund and Folio 3 work, I work with entrepreneurs all the time. I've never seen any startup succeed without that, sort of crazy amount of hard work and that perseverance. And Zareen had it in droves. The other thing is that, her obsession with quality and detail is like next to none, right? So we had a Sehri Suhoor night, I think it was a couple of years back. And, Salik and I told her that, look, you can go, rest up. I'll be here for a couple of hours till 1, 2, and then Sadiq can take on from there. So she goes home, and then at 12:30 a.m., I get a text from Zareen saying, there's no brown pyaz on the halim. And I'm looking around like, is she around? She's not. She's at home in bed looking through the camera as the food is coming out. There's, because halim pe aapko crispy pyaz to hone
Yes,
chahiye.
yeah.
Well, so she's like doing computer vision through the camera to see why the brown pyaz not there, right? So that it's still not stopped till today, right? So those are things that really made her.
I mean,
restaurant
I
big.
can share that when I was the guinea pig for Shami kebab, one day I tasted a Shami kebab and it wasn't 10 on 10, and she threw 20 pounds of Shami kebab that day.
Yeah.
And I thought that I was the Maiman there because I was like, you can't dispose 20 pounds of Shami kebab, just sell them, doesn't matter, And that's the level of quality control that she did even at that time, way back when that wasn't even a restaurant, So no, I'm aware of that.
So, and then the other thing, by the way, is that overall for the restaurant to succeed, in my opinion, right, I think our mantra has always been authentic, but accessible, right? And that's true of the cookbook as well. But, we just want, like, it is authentic, but it is accessible, not just to, folks like the three of us who, from the motherland and want, exactly itna ghee here or itni mirchein there and all, right? But to sort of our next generation and their friends and so on and so forth. And that's sort of been the genius and the magic of Zareen is especially the next generation, but, across a relatively large swathe without being inauthentic, right? Like trying to be too cookie cutter and too direct. Right? So.
And Zareen, you mentioned that you started having fundraisers. You have been particularly involved with women's issues, women's rights, women's charities. Tell me more about that, please. What about that talks to you so much, and Zareen has been such a big supporter of that.
So even before the restaurant started, I used to have the Chandrat fundraiser at my house, where all the proceeds from the Mehendiwala and the Shir Khorma sales would be donated to, I think. So that 10-year tradition still continues. Still, this Chandrat will have a UNICEF fundraiser. So that has always been a big thing for me because I feel like all of us are so privileged. And if we don't do anything with that privilege, that would be so unfortunate, So having come from Karachi, from a Maiman background, I see how hard it is for women to break out of that patriarchy and do something on their own to become independent. So if I did not have the privilege of really good supportive environment as well as education, I don't think I could have done what I did. So I want to empower other women to be independent, to be financially independent and take decisions for themselves. That's only possible by supporting education or giving opportunity to the youth.
And what do you think a woman can do? I mean, living in, say, US right now or Pakistan right now, what is your advice? What is the few fundamental things a woman needs to stick to make it work, to make sure that you go through with whatever your vision is, because I know you to be a very relentless person, very hardworking person, what I call jhakki in Urdu, so you've been doing that for many, many years. What is your advice to a woman who wants to do something similar or different?
Honestly, Amreen, I see a lot of women with amazing ideas and they start on it too. But because of family not being supportive or because of the demands from the family, okay, you have to pick up the kids, you have to cook the food, you have to, cater to the in-laws. I feel like they're constrained. But even in those constraints, if they can pursue something that drives them, that motivates them, to do something over time and grow over time, that would help. Like when I started, I didn't start with a restaurant. That was not even possible given Umair's travel and the kids' ages. But cooking classes were possible, being a teacher was possible. Being involved in the communities was possible for me. And that keeps you thriving, that keeps your mind active. So anything that you can do to kind of be involved and follow a passion that can eventually become a financial source would be excellent for anybody.
Okay, so one other thing is considering the challenges and opportunities you have encountered in sharing Pakistani cuisine and culture with the global audience, what key strategies have you found most effective in bridging cultural gaps, fostering an understanding, and what future aspirations do you have for expanding in this work area?
So from very early on, my target audience was, of course, desis, no doubt about it. But I also did not want to exclude the non-desis. So I always wanted to have that healthy mix of desis and non-desis. So 60% desis versus and 40% non-desis. And I think that's very important for other people to come and taste our food, see our culture, be the ambassador of our culture. It's very important. And anybody who's starting a restaurant may want to consider that instead of just being very Pakistani focused or very Desi focused.
And I think it's like, it's sort of a win-win, right? Like, I think it's important for you as a business to not just focus on a very niche market. I mean, that can be your core strength, but it can't be your entire market. But the other thing is, look, as a community, we all know, Amreen, right? Like, in this day and age, we've figured out that as a community here, as a global diaspora, we have success, we have reasonable amounts of affluence, but we do not have the influence and the representation and the voice that we need. And a big part of that is for the last 25 years, we have not been ambassadors of our culture to the extent that we should have been. We haven't leaned into our identity. We haven't done the outreach and activism. So I think literally in every one of our lives, student life, professional life, startup life, right? Certainly in sort of hospitality and food business, we have to look at that as a really important platform and channel for bridging that gap, for reaching out and trying to be less of the others.
One change that I've seen over the last 10 years about perception of Pakistan, I think there has been a positive change. Because initially when I opened in 2014 and people would say, oh, this is Indian food. And I was like, yeah, I'm from Pakistan, so this is Pakistani food. But of course it has, roots in India. And there would be a pin drop silence, especially with the non-desis, the Gora crowd, There would be like a small silence before they would react. But lately, I've noticed that people are actually appreciating Pakistani identity. There is no slight, that pause that I used to notice before, and that's because so many Pakistani young students are so proud. Young second immigrants are so proud of their Pakistani heritage, their Muslim heritage. So many Pakistani women are influencers. So Pakistan is becoming a known word in a positive way, and I'm really glad to see that change.
No, and I'm glad that people like you are representing Pakistan in a light where our rich culture is coming to everybody, and mashallah, it's being appreciated. So tell me, all these years of restauranting and all of these recipes and experiments and experience, and I'm sure many challenges along the way in running of the restaurant. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but finally it gave birth to this. And we want to get to this at some point and see how that was born. And I know Umair has a key role to play in that. So I'd love to hear all about that.
Challenges first, huh? Obviously, starting in a new restaurant was a new territory for me. So hiring people was the biggest challenge. I didn't know where to even look for employees. I would be asking everyone, So that was a big challenge. And if you have family who can work with you, that obviously always helps. Umair and the kids were always on call. They knew that if I text SOS, that means I need help. So somehow they need to contact me. And there are many instances where I would tell Umair, I really need help. So do you want to talk about
Oh, yeah. So since this is Open Global, and look, I was one of the founders of Open Silicon Valley chapter, and Open's this amazing organization, very proud of it. But, I'd done my due. So this is by the time Zareen had started, I was more of the elder of Open. You'd go to Open Forum, and, all the young folks would be, there and, asking you for wisdom. And I'm dispensing, like, here's term sheets, this, and funding that and all. And then I get a message from Zareen, there are no more alus. Bring alus. So then I have to tell this whole group that I have a really important meeting to attend to, so I'll be back soon. And then I'm off to get alus. So this actually happened at an open forum. So, and there are lots and lots of, I was having a one-on-one with somebody, and then Zareen just comes to my table and she's like, everything good, man? Yeah, everything's good. Meet my, friend here and so on. And then Zareen just sort of pinches me in the back, right? So I know, okay, there's an SOS. So then I go and she's like, you have to be cashier right now. So I'm like, I'm in the middle of a meeting, right? She's like, you have to be cashier right now. So I tell this person, I just need to help for 5 minutes. And then 40 minutes later, the poor guy had left. I was still
Oh
cashier.
my God.
I mean, first 6 months, I don't even know how I survived, seriously.
Yeah.
But that's, I've seen this with everything. Once you start something, it looks almost like impossible. At some point, you want to give up. But if you can go through that tough time of actually getting grounded, after that, things do get easier.
Yeah, and look, that's why she's one of my case studies in Berkeley. This fits in with any startup that we've heard of, right? We glamorize tech startups. I think we glamorize, sort of young, sort of, male founders coming out and putting in 70 hours. But then when a female founder does it, she may or may not get that same sort of response, right? But it's exactly that. If anything, honestly, a blue collar startup like the food business, that's honestly the toughest business, right? I'll take sort of boring software SaaS over that any day.
No, but I think very beautifully handled in terms of everything from the ambience to the food, to the way it's marketed, to the way it's embraced when people walk in, to the way people are welcomed. So it's a very big endeavor. It's been done beautifully and very gracefully. And then from that venture, I think the book in itself is a startup in its own right, because to get the precision right on the masalas, we are the people who work with andaza. Andaze se ye, and like just estimation. And here everything has to be precise. Half a teaspoon of this, 250 grams of that. And then to write the story the way you did it, Umair, and write the whole thing from A to Z with her recipes. I mean, job beautifully done. Please tell me the motivation behind this book and the journey.
Sure. So look, this was my sort of dream to write. I took 8 semesters of creative writing at MIT, which was a very lonely experience. But I consider myself a writer. I love doing that. And I had to sort of, really convince Zareen. Like, I had this idea actually around COVID that, look, I really want to do this. And I want us to, have this amazing project. And she was super busy, obviously. And so she was like, no. And so it took, I don't know how many months.
It took almost a year of Umair reading me the aloo gosh description that he had even written before I gave him any recipe.
Yeah.
And then reading me, how this namely samosas will sound. So after about a year, I'm like, okay, fine, I'll do this favor to you.
Yes. So then,
This favor to him, that's awesome. That's awesome, Zareen.
No, but she was right, because it's such a project. I'm going to actually just share, if you guys allow me, and just tell you a little bit about the book. So first of all, look over here, and I hope you guys can see the screen. Yeah. So I'm going to just do so can you guys see this?
Yes, we can.
So, so look, first of all, I mean, I'm relatively well known in the entrepreneurial circles. Zareen is very well known here, but in the New York publishing industry, we are completely unknowns. So it was really an interesting and very humbling experience to have this startup where all the publishers, kind of like VCs, are like, who the heck are you, right? And so we had to kind of go and convince. So it was about a little over a year of rejections from publishers, then agents, then we got an agent, then we still got rejections from publishers, until finally Sasquatch Books, which is a imprint of Penguin Random House, agreed and took this on. But then, of course, we made too much work for ourselves as well, because as you can see here, there were like multiple projects in this, and Zareen and I are both like sort of obsessed with these sort of details. So just to give you a sense, the cover itself with Begum Bano, Zareen's and my favorite artist out of Lahore, is to me genuinely a work of art, right? Like, so you see the peacock and the feathers of the peacock becoming the Arabian Sea, and the parrot made out of food, and Quaid-e-Azam Mizar, and Minar-e Pakistan, and Urdu Salam 1947, the Bay Bridge on the Pakola, the Stanford pennant, which is a lal mirch, right? And then the back cover itself, original art, is Bunce Road, where Zareen grew up, meets Cal Ave, right? All in one place, right? So this was a project in itself, yeah? And then comes all the cooking. And Zareen was absolutely right that she didn't want to take on this project because it's an insane amount of work. You can ghostwrite a book, you can ghost cook a cookbook, right? But we didn't do either, right? So every word is written by me. Every recipe was cooked many times over by Zareen. All the photography was done at our house. And we really wanted that sense of Pakistan and our childhoods coming in. So that's Zareen, age five,
Seven.
6, 7, and that's our favorite book here at Chai Time. So, and again, this is the Memni stuff, bun kebab, and all of that. And then, the writing, right? I mean, so I love to do this, but when you have an editor on your back and their deadlines, it's a whole different intense and wonderful process. And then we got a separate project, which was getting Khalid Jamil as our photographer in Karachi, and she did this incredible job and almost a miraculous job of making Karachi look clean and beautiful. So that was a whole different project. And then Zareen really wanted. Zareen, you want to talk about the women? Okay, so so we wanted to spotlight amazing women that we love, right? So from Rupi Kaur to Michelle Tam of Nom Nom Paleo of Nadia Hussain and so on. And we asked all of them to, be in our book. And that was a project in itself. We had Aisha Chundrigir, whom you know, as well, and have them pick, sort of charities. And so that was the final part of the cookbook, was that we really want to donate through the charity. Zareen and I see this as an engine for sort of perpetual impact and donations. Yeah. So that's kind of just to give you a very, very quick sort of a walkthrough of the cookbook and what it all was about. Yeah.
So clearly a very challenging, but it seems like a very satisfying project, like something that gave you great joy.
What do you think?
I
Lots
don't
of work?
think it is a lot more than what you even expected. It's even more beautiful than what I thought it would look like. And the publisher did an amazing job of not just printing, but keeping us in line. Like I would say, Acha, boil the dal until done. And I would get a comment back. What do you mean until done?
Yeah.
How do people know it's done?
Yeah.
But that was important, and but that's why the book, I think, is so professional. Comes across so professional because of
It is professional, done by professionals.
done by professional, and also project managed by professional.
Yeah.
Published, very impressive.
Yeah.
Yes.
We had an incredible team. It was like, I think about
women.
a dozen women and me. That was honestly.
What's new, man?
But it's seriously, right? Like, honestly, this whole dream was realized by, our copy editor, Neetu, our photographer, all the artists, the spotlight women. Zareen honestly put in just an insane amount of, she would constantly say, "Tum mujhe kis mein ye phasa diya hai?" It would just be over and over. It was just, just a crazy amount of work.
No, I think you should be very proud of this. I mean, it's a real heirloom piece kind of a thing. It's something you can hand down to your kids. I've already ordered 3 copies for my kids, so it's a beautiful thing. But how is the pre-launch looking like right now? What about the printing? What's the response you've gotten from this book?
Yeah, so your average, so 90% of cookbooks sell less than 100 copies. Your average cookbook sells about 1,000 copies, right? And so Penguin Random House called me about a month back, and they said that, look, it's doing actually quite well because, frankly, again, Zareen's customer base and especially our community, the Pakistanis and broadly South Asians, have been pre-ordering. So the booksellers have ordered 4,600 copies, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Independent, which I thought was very good. And then they called me 2 weeks back and said that actually everybody sort of upped their thing, particularly Amazon. And so now we have 12,500 orders. And this is before the book has launched, but we only printed 9,000. So the book went into a second printing before launch.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
That makes me also so happy, but also so proud, right? Like if you look in sort of Amazon, you look at the sort of Indian cookbook and Pakistani cookbook stuff, I think there are 4 or 5 Pakistani cookbooks we really like, right? But they don't have that reach if you just look at the reviews and the volumes and all that we would love to have, right? So hopefully this makes a dent.
Well, it's already doing very well. I can only foresee it doing even better, And one more thing, Umair, because being a man, a Pakistani man, to Zareen's whole mission about women and how challenging it's been, and you've been a really major support, like biggest partner that she's had, biggest support she's had. What do you want to say about that for the Pakistani women out there, or the Pakistani men? How that support is important, how that role of having such empowered women in the society important.
Yeah, so it's interesting. We had a really good talk at Omnivore Bookshop, which all of you should totally visit. It's a cookbook shop only in San Francisco, and it's gorgeous. And somebody brought up that point that and as an entrepreneur, was a American guy who was like, I'm starting my startup, and I know startups have a lot of pressure than on your spouse, right? So how did you guys manage, and how did you, Umair, manage when Zareen was doing, 70, 80, 100 hours a week, right? And I think we both sort of answered in a similar way. Like, first of all, look, I think it's really important in a marriage that we, the two spouses, the partners have, their own paths and journeys, right? Because, if I'm just at home waiting for her to come back, or she's at home just waiting, then there is this pressure, okay, but, why are you doing this, whatever. I was actually, at some level, obviously very proud of what she was doing and very supportive, just like of any other entrepreneur. But the extra benefit I got was that, she was also then like, you go slay your dragons, I'll slay mine, right? Like, so I think it's that sort of equal, purposeful life in parallel is important. And then, of course, your partners, so you join and you overlap and you support. So for me, yeah, it was, net very positive. The other thing is, yeah, look, there has to be symmetry. Like when I was doing this crazy stuff, and the kids were, by the way, much younger. This is circa 2000 and the dot-com boom and dot-com buzz. I mean, I can only imagine. I wasn't even around to see what pressures were on her, right? When she was, by the way, still working, right? But, she was keeping her career at a certain pace so that I could do my stuff, right? So I think that for all folks, but especially for Pakistani men, I think ultimately if your wife wants to do some stuff and find that next level of purpose or that expanded scope, you should do that just simply because it makes sense and it's fair and symmetrical. But B, I think you get a lot out of it. It adds to the richness of life. My life now, of course, sometimes sick and tired at 11 o'clock, Zareen is still talking about, thali mein wo, dal ke bajaye chole rakh dein, right? I was like, dude, like, okay. Or if you go on a date with her, she's still scoping out the restaurant. Acha, ye light yahan lagayi hai. I was like, dude, let's enjoy the food. So
the word jhakki is not the wrong word then, right?
It's not.
Yeah.
But, it does give a lot of richness and color. And let's be honest, look, I love writing and I love this book, but there is no question in my mind that without the Zareen's brand and that platform, this book would not have received, the chance that it has.
No, absolutely, absolutely.
My message to the families who are listening, or the husbands of the household, is that if they keep expecting hot food on the table for dinner and not compromise, this is not possible. And making your wife successful or empowering her not only helps the overall family dynamic, but it also sets a certain standard for their daughters to follow. If they see their mom being supported by the husband and doing well, they will also say, "Acha, maybe I can even do better." Otherwise, the future generations of girls and all won't get that chance. So by supporting your wife, you actually enabling your daughters and granddaughters to a better future.
And I will just say that when Zareen opened up her California app, right, like the main restaurant, because Pella Wala Mountain View is very small. So, Summer, our eldest daughter, came, and when she saw this big restaurant with Zareen's name, she burst into tears, right? Okay. And then 2 days back at Omnivore Bookshop, when Zareen and I were talking, and I was talking about my journey as a writer and this book, and everybody was listening, our friend, Natasha and Atif's daughter, Shanze, was there. And she was emotional seeing us being these stars in front of the rest of the world, right? And being these role models across the community, right? And then Summer came to me, right? Because she knows how much I love to write. She's the writer in the family, right? And she came and she just hugged me, and then she just started to cry. And she just whispered in my ear, "I'm so proud of you, Daddy."
I think the same thing I noticed with my youngest daughter. I always thought she might have resentment because when she was in high school, that's when I started my catering business. I would pick them up, but then I'll go back to the kitchen, So I always thought maybe I'm sure she feels like she didn't get the kind of attention that I should have given her as a guilty mom, But one of the days when she was being a cashier, and after that she said, "Oh, do you want to have lunch together?" So we were having lunch together at the restaurant. And she asked me, Mama, who do you think is my role model? Who do you think I'm most impressed by? And I'm like, yeah, your pupo, your kala, your this, that, daddy, whatever, right? And she's like, no, Mama, it's you. It's you, because I have seen how you started and how you made that happen. And I think nobody can give me a better compliment, or I feel like my purpose is achieved just with that one sentence,
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I think that brings it full circle in a way that you did the thing, went through the hard work, and you got the moment, got the recognition from where it really matters, you
Yep.
know, and it fulfills the purpose. They saw an empowered mother, they felt proud of the mother, they felt proud of the father, you know, and they found that team together, which now makes them more empowered in so many ways. So, mashallah, congratulations, you guys have done awesome. I think we can now open it up for questions. I'm sure there are many people wanting to ask you more questions. So please, everybody, raise your hand on the screen so that we can hear your question. With Hassan is going to unmute you, and then you can ask your question from Zareen and Umair. Thanks.
By the way, thank you, Amreen. This was wonderfully done. It was so enjoyable.
It
Yes.
was talking to good
You're
friends.
quite yet another hidden talent.
Chalo, I'll take that from you.
Yeah. Next time we do Fireside Chat at Open Forum, you interview Asad. How's that?
Oh, wow. That's a good one. I'll do that.
So while we're waiting for everyone else to ask questions, I have one for both of you, Umair and Zareen, is that your restaurant has consistently been recognized as one of the best rated places in Bay Area and a crown jewel of Pakistani cuisine. Especially if I have to take any of my American friends or European friends to Pakistani place, I would first go to Palo Alto Zareen for sure. So question is, in this dynamic culinary landscape, how have you maintained such high standard and relevance? And what are the key elements that contribute to the enduring success and reputation of Zareen's? That was something a few people actually said to ask you. I would love to hear more about that.
I think one thing that I did very early on with the restaurants is I had decided I will not get a professional chef in. So all the cooking is still controlled by me. I am the only chef. I train people, they work with me, and after a few months when I feel like they can continue on their own, I step back and watch over. And I still do. As soon as I go to the restaurant, I never enter from the front. I always go from the back. And I'm always noticing things. I'm not a very observant person in general, but when it comes to a restaurant, I have like a 360-degree check, like inspection, to the point where it's affecting my life because I come home and I look around and I'm always trying to improve things. You know, it's become so.
She's pointing at me right now.
So yeah, I think being very picky on the quality, not relying on a chef who might then control me or a skilled labor has helped me control the quality better. We also have a central commissary kitchen that enables me to control the quality from there before it goes to the location. So that has also helped us a lot.
Yeah, and by the way, on that, Zareen was a very good cook of niharis in particular, right? So nihari was one of her sort of, signature dishes. But then she didn't even introduce it to in the restaurant for many years. And finally, when she did, it honestly took her about 3 years to perfect the nihari recipe as she has it now, right? So I think that continuous learning, which I've seen in all the great entrepreneurs, right, is very much here. And that I think is very important if you're going into any business, but particularly in the food business. Don't assume that you know it all. Like, we know brilliant cooks, right? Actually, our host is an incredible cook, right? But to cook for thousands of people, thousands of pounds of, kebabs and all is a whole different thing. And you have to learn. So she literally learned stuff and kept learning. Like, if you look at her YouTube, it's endless, just looking at everything and everybody out there and every morsel of, sort of insight and wisdom.
I mean, it's an ongoing process, quality control, and it's very difficult. It's the most difficult part of the restaurant is to maintain that quality that I would do if I had only one restaurant, but with 3-4 locations now, it is tough. And we constantly are working on getting, a process there that generates more expected returns.
So there is a couple of questions over here. The first one is, Umair and Zareen, the cookbook not only showcases Pakistani cuisine, but also highlights remarkable women leaders. In what ways did you find that highlighting these women's stories impacted the overall reception and message of the book? And how do you believe this contributes to broader conversations about women's empowerment in entrepreneurship and beyond? And there's another question after that says, are you thinking of franchising in near future?
So we'll take the book question first, but so how it sort of, so our whole idea was that, look, Zareen discovered this, right? That people come over and over to her and say, look, you're our role model, right? It's amazing to see you succeed this way. So we wanted role models. We wanted people women whom we loved. Honestly, genuinely, we just admired, right? In different things. So Aisha and her work with animal rescue, Nadia and her sort of food work, Rupi with the written word. And we wanted to put it out there so that people can see, right? So this is more than just recipes, more than just photographs, more than just some essays, right? To see these things. And as you said, Amreen, that this is an heirloom that you hand down to your daughters and kids and grandchildren. We'd love to have these women be there to remind people of, what's possible, right? So that was our big thing. And then we wanted them to obviously pick their charity of choice. So we have the, Behbood and Planned Parenthood and Doctors Without Borders, Palestinian Children Relief Fund. These are all charities picked by them and us that we'll be contributing to.
Yeah, I think this book is not just a collection of recipes, but this is also a story that Umair is telling, and adding those women to the book just makes a very clear message to others about how women empowerment can really change the things. If you look around, a lot of nonprofits are driven by women, and they are not that recognized. So just recognizing some women, I hope other people see that and they recognize more women, so that we have role models for our future generations.
And the messages are incredible. So if you read it, Sana Amanat, who's the Miss Marvel creator, her message is, anybody can be a superhero, right? Regardless of your, how you look, your origin, your gender, right? And others have given exactly this. So Michelle's message was really lovely. When she left, very steady job to start this food business of her own, her Chinese American parents were very, very concerned. Ki ye kya kar rahi ho, job security, blah, blah, blah. And she said, but they left China and took the biggest risk of their life. So her thing is, follow what your parents do, not what they talk, right? Follow the actions and not the words. So there's these beautiful wisdom from all these women in this as well.
That's
The
awesome.
franchising stuff. So
The franchise. So my happy place is being in the kitchen. And I feel like already I'm drawn to do other things besides just being in the kitchen, like, dealing with California rules and regulations and, all the inflation that's happening right now and all. So those are distractions for me. And if I franchise, that would be another distraction from me, from, taking me away from the kitchen, because I'll be more involved in administrative work. So right now I don't have any plans to franchise. And if I do, I think it would be through my employees who have worked hard to make me where I am. So without my team, I don't think I could have achieved what I've done. And they may be the first one that I might consider to franchise with.
Okay. That's great. Now we have one more question here. It says, Zareen, your journey intertwines cultural preservation, entrepreneurial spirit, and philanthropic goals. How did you balance these diverse elements while writing Zareen's Pakistani Kitchen? And what advice do you have for other entrepreneurs looking to integrate social impact into their business models?
I think for me, my motivation to start the restaurant was always to do something for myself. And in that journey, I discovered how people would come to me and find me a role model, find me an inspiration. So I feel like whatever we are as an entrepreneur we do, we need to think of the larger community and how to involve them. Because without the community, I don't think I could be where I am. It was my first step to take me to my journey. So now giving back to the community is only fair. And it's like a two-way street, it's not possible for you
But
to be
even though you didn't come across that initially, that may not have been your purpose, but moving forward, if an entrepreneur wanted to do a kind of a venture and also integrate social impact in it, in their business model, maybe Umair can also talk about this. How does one do that?
So for me, and this I teach at my course at Berkeley, which everybody's welcome to come to, by the way, you can look it up. One of the things that I tell folks is to now, if you're starting out, right, think of setting up engines for impact and for charitable donations and charitable contributions. What I mean by that is, look, the typical entrepreneurial journey is if you succeed, right, you'll become a billionaire and then you'll give like a billionaire. Great, right? And what my challenge to my students is, give like a billionaire without becoming a billionaire. Okay. So give millions of dollars a year without becoming, first ruining the world and then setting up a foundation to help, sort of wash away your sins. And I think that you look at Warby Parker, you look at Tom's Shoes, you look at Lemonade Insurance, there are examples of people who are thinking from day one of having that double bottom line, right? Doing well by doing good, right? And I challenge everybody to do that. So this cookbook, right? If we succeed, half of our royalties are going to this. So if this becomes a bestseller and sells not just thousands, but tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of copies, this will be an engine ongoing from day one to give. Versus that, if it becomes a hit, then we'll take all the money and then we'll set something up later, right? So I would absolutely, integrate impact day one. It's the right thing to do. You'll feel more fulfilled. And frankly, it gives you a wonderful unfair advantage, right? I mean, I will only get Warby Parker glasses because of their mission, right? Others will do the same with, other, companies. So I challenge people like day one, do this. And Zareen very much is, if you look at it, it has evolved into an engine for giving.
And I mean, from the journey that I have seen of Zareen's, I think it was, without realizing it, there's a lot of design thinking elements involved in it. Automatically, there is a lot of, I mean, the culture was already there. And the social justice just started coming just about immediately. The moment there was, the restaurant was there was fundraisers there was social impact started. I mean, it started really at the beginning without perhaps having thought through that this is going to be my model, But I think Zareen is one of those examples where design thinking in practice and social causes in practice, without necessarily going by the textbook definition of it, that, oh, this is what I should be doing or technically should be doing. I think she was already doing that from the very beginning, So
I agree. It was very organic. And again, so you look at the lean startup method in design thinking, it's all there. It just wasn't there. She wasn't thinking that, okay, I'll follow the lean startup method, right? But looking back, right, it's this, and it's always remarkable for me when she first opened up in Palo Alto in October, everybody came up to us and said, wow, this is like an overnight success. And I was like, yeah, this is an overnight success, 7 years in the making.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So are there any other questions from everybody? If there's anything else, let me know. Otherwise, if there's anything that's burning inside you and you really want to talk about that, how about we spend a few minutes doing that?
But
This is Tariq. I would have a question. Amreen, thank you so much for doing this. And Umair and Zareen, what an inspiring story. I think you're motivating a lot of people who are not thinking about this to get into it, but I'm sure the journey itself is, you have, simply put it in a nice way, but it's a lot of hard work. I have been living in New York for, all my adult life. And somehow in New York, not a single Pakistani restaurant, I'm talking about New York City, have been able to crack the code of the fine dining. There are multiple Indian restaurants, and there is a huge population of Pakistanis. We do have restaurants in New Jersey and Long Island, but somehow no one has been able to do that. Any reason that you think we don't have that in New York City, which is such a vibrant place, and so many Pakistanis live here, and we always complain about not a single fine dining restaurant, Pakistani?
I think so for me, fine dining is not an option because I want my food to be affordable. It's very important for me that people from all cultures should be able to afford the food. Now, when it comes to your question of going fine dining by Pakistani restaurant, my theory would be that first of all, our community is very, very price sensitive, and being fine dining would definitely increase the prices. The Indian restaurants have been able to do it because they're free to add alcohol to the menu, which gives them an advantage over other restaurants which are not non-alcoholic most of the time. So adding alcohol, selling something that's $1, that costs them $1, but they're selling it for $15, give them a huge advantage over competition. So they are able to pull off those kind of profits, but we cannot. That could be a possible reason to, the price sensitivity of our audience plus the inability to kind of go out and do whatever others are doing,
So I think, I don't know, Tariq, if you mean by fine dining, like Michelin 2-star stuff, or you mean more like, for example, Dishoom in London, right? It's affordable, it's accessible, it's good food, but it's a great experience, ambiance. It's run like a machine. The decor is beautiful, right? And I feel at some level, even Zareen's, especially now with the renovated Palo Alto and all, it's a place to come. It's not a dhaba. It's not like, where you wouldn't want to take, your business colleagues to or your dates to. So I think that there is a way to achieve that. I'm not sure why it's not been done in New York. I mean, actually, forget New York. My hometown, Boston, where I went to college, has very few good Pakistani restaurants, right?
And I think it's somewhere in the between, a restaurant that you can take your family to. There are a lot of dhaba style in New York City, which are doing very well, but nothing that I can take my family to. And yes, I was not talking about Bangalore.
Yeah, exactly. But it's coming, right? Look, so I really do feel the evolution. One thing I'll just leave the audience with is that I'm so energized by the next generation, right? And I think Amreen, Zareen, we all see that, right? The next generation of, boys and girls who are, becoming filmmakers, right? Who are going into journalism, right? Who are going into the food business, who are creating these Yemeni coffee shops and all. There is a whole surge coming. So I wouldn't be the old uncle auntie type ki ye kyun nahi ho raha, right? I'm telling you it's happening, right? And even in this journey, right? Like one of the influencers just, sent a nice message about us and we, got 175 pre-orders in one day. And my publisher's like, what the hell is happening? I was like, it's the power of our next generation and their influence. So I think
I'll ask a Pakistani parent question. You have done such a non-traditional shift in your entrepreneurial journey, and you have created such a wonderful empire. Would your children be ever interested in taking over at some point in time?
So I tried with both my daughters, and they were not that for it. But my son, who I didn't want him to join because he went to Davis, did 4 years of computer science, and then he comes and he said, I don't want to do coding anymore. I'm like, okay, so what do you want to do? You're at the cusp of AI revolution and you don't want to join that? And he's like, no, I don't like coding, but I'll join a startup. So I said, okay, fine. Which startup do you want to join? And he says, Zareen. He's doing a phenomenal job.
Yes.
He really has changed the way Palo Alto location is now, and we were selected as the #1 slot in the top 100 restaurants here in the Bay Area by Yelp, and it's a very a prestigious award that we got, and it wasn't possible if it wasn't for my son's hard work. So yeah, I'm for it. I mean, now that he's done it, I'm for it, but. And now I see more and more young people, graduates of Berkeley, opening cafes like Elaichi Cafe and all, and so proud of them.
Yeah. So if there are no more questions, I'm going to read sort of the final final paragraph from Zareen's story, because it talks about sort of the next generation and our expectations of that too. So this is Zareen talking about, recently a mother came up to me at the restaurant and told me that her daughter is inspired by Zareen auntie. By me, I thought, a girl from Bunce Road who grew up on books, who was not interested in cooking, and who somehow is now the accidental chef marshalling 80 cooks to make thousands of naans, kebabs, and mango lassis every week. As I sat observing the lunch service at Zareen's that day, I recalled an afternoon when I was 8, sitting in our kitchen, reading my treasured copy of Tell Me Why. My aunt, who was cooking, took a break from making rotis, looked across at me and said, "Itna kyun padti hai? बाद में तो सिर्फ खाना ही बनाना है." Why do you read so much? All you will do afterwards is cook. Aunts, it turns out, are always right.
Thank you. Thank you so much. There is one more question. I don't know if we have time to take that.
I might have to leave, but let's
do one last question, sure.
Okay, there's one last question here. It says, hi, Zareen and Umair. First, congratulations on the book. This is a great follow on to the restaurant. As you have mentioned, a food startup is atypical when it comes to the Pakistani diaspora. But since you have experience in the space, do you believe there exist opportunities other than restaurants in the food space, which our youth could be capitalizing on?
Absolutely. I see that. I see a lot of Indian young people who are, doing organic spices, bottling up their chai concentrates. So there is no reason why we cannot do that.
Yeah. And tech also, food tech, we're seeing companies coming over and over, right? In terms of improvement of customer service, supply chain, and so on. So the food industry is incredible, right? And it's burgeoning. It's one of those very, very recession-proof industries. So,
and the other thing I noticed is that after COVID, people's buying habits have changed. They're
Mhm.
buying, retail is moved online. Most of the retail is moved online. So going out to cafes, going out for dinner or lunch, it's a nice way to be out and about, because otherwise you're always on Amazon ordering this. You're always on Nordstrom.com ordering something, you're not going out as much. So when
Yeah.
people go out, this is where they're going, hanging out, is, cafes or comedy shows or restaurants. So those are the sector that has benefited after COVID.
Yeah.
So why not jump on that?
Thank you. Thank you so much, both of you. And it was lovely to have you. We'll be sharing this recording on Open Global YouTube channel. So please feel free to share it with your friends and family. And it was a pleasure talking to both of you. Very proud of you both. Thank you so much for today.
Thank you, Amreen. This was such a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.